Max Bankman, I'm the new doctor.
Welcome aboard the Odyssey.
ABC Thursdays.
This ship is heaven. We're tending to our passengers' dreams. I'm in.
From 911 executive producer Ryan Murphy comes a splashy new drama on a luxury cruise ship with Joshua Jackson and Don Johnson.
It's your job to keep everyone alive.
She's in VFib. 1, 2, 3. Clear.
I have a pulse.
You're going to be okay.
Dr. Odyssey. Thursdays, 9/8 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.
So if you do not have a boss, if you do not carry the mental load of the invisible ecosystem of your entire family and home, and you don't have a period, of course you can check your email only at 3. Of course you can go work out after work. Of course you can have hobbies and relationships and you can build, you can work 4 hours a week and you can make all this money because you don't have these huge things that women have. You don't have those things.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I'm your host, Joanne Crone, joined here by the lovely Bree Tucker.
Why, hello, everybody. How are you?
Bree Tucker doing some Billie Joe Armstrong facial expressions. We just went to the Green Day concert last night in Phoenix, and I have to say, if you have not seen Green Day perform live, Billie Joe Armstrong,
He brings it.
He is an expressive dude.
I have to say, I had a feeling it was going to be a good concert because I'd seen little clips of things, and he definitely seems to engage people. And
yeah,
you've heard me talk about how my dream was to go see him when I was 14, when the Dookie album came out. I wanted to go so bad. I want to say it was Green Day and Offspring together.
Oh, so, that was a 90s pairing for sure.
Yes, yeah. It was a 90s pairing. It was both of their first large albums. So it was and I didn't get to go because they were sold out by the time my parents got around to trying to get tickets. And then I was supposed to see them a few years ago at a music festival, and one of my kids got sick and I had to leave, so I missed that one too.
But you finally saw him.
But I'm glad I saw him. Yeah, I'm glad I saw him last night because I think that the venue was good. And I think had I seen him at 14 and he was still that angsty 20-year-old, right? I think it would have been a little bit different. I think it would have been a little bit different.
He's just a fun kind of
yeah!
He's a dad and he's making all these funny expressions. And
oh my God. And he brought a girl up on stage to sing.
Oh my gosh. That was hilarious.
He made
her life
right there. So that was amazing.
She was so excited.
Yeah.
But today we're not talking anything about that.
Well, I could say it brings in the coffee for today and the
Well, what's so funny is my dad used to tell me when I was a kid, you could change subjects so fast, Joanne, you give people whiplash. And I'm like, I do. I can change subjects like that, just that fast. But today, if you have felt frustrated and think that you have no routine, that your productivity sucks, that you're horrible at time management, oh my gosh, you need this episode really, really badly because we're here to tell you that it is not you. And helping us do that is Kendra Adachi, our guest today. She's a 2-time New York Times bestselling author and host of the Lazy Genius podcast. She helps people be a genius about the things that matter and lazy about the things they don't. Her mission is to help identify that the struggle of women and moms in particular to manage their time and lives is not because of anything they're doing wrong. It's because of the current productivity paradigm that teaches greatness as a goal. And her newest book, The Plan, just released. So we hope you enjoy our conversation with Kendra.
You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast.
This week has been insane and I'm really tired.
Look at the size of the coffee I have this morning.
That is the required size of coffee though. I'm here for it.
I have my cold brew right here, but it's not. Yeah.
So this week, I have to give you a tiny bit of backstory on that, Kendra. So we had a whirlwind trip to New York City that we went on for Instagram.
We left Monday morning and we returned Tuesday night.
That is fast.
At the Instagram.
Yeah.
That's fast if you're East Coast, but
I
doing
know.
that from Arizona, that's a whole thing.
So we got that like invite last week. And so it was very, very last minute. And we're like, okay, we got to get back by Tuesday night because Wednesday night we had why Brie has green hair.
We both had tickets to go to the Green Day Smashing Pumpkins concert.
Stop it.
And so like it was one of those things where we are friends in real life. Like we've known each other since our daughters were in kindergarten. And we only live like 10 minutes apart from each other. But we totally on our own bought tickets. And it wasn't until like recently that it was like, oh, I'm going to Green Day. Oh, I'm going to Green Day. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
That's so fun.
Yeah, it was a lot. It's a lot. So, but we are going to have so much fun because, yeah, all the travel time and stuff meant that I got to read and enjoy your book during that entire time. And I absolutely loved it. And I want to get into it because I have such a anger against time management gurus and stuff like that. Like I read you do as well. So I'm so excited to talk with you, Kendra. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about your childhood and how you were like with organizing during childhood, because in the book you mentioned that you had these like alphabetized books of like your classmates in class. Like tell me all the things. How were you as a kid?
Oh my gosh. I still don't understand why anyone was friends with me and why I had a notebook of my classmates in alphabetical order, first and last name. Like I would do different like scenarios of like, okay, so let's do a boy lesson and a girl lesson. Like who's going to line up with it? Basically everything was trying to manufacture like a future life scenario in some way. It was kind of silly, but I grew up, I would say the best way to describe how I grew up is I was just a good girl. I was such a good girl.
Yeah.
I got
Same.
Yeah, a good girl club.
Yes, it was like the grades. Every teacher loved me. Every mom, as the older I got, every mom wanted me to date their son. I was always called on to like show new kids around school, and I was voted most dependable of my high school class. I was valedictorian of my high school. Like I was just very, very good, very compliant at home.
You beat me. I was definitely not that good.
I was very, very good. But the biggest reason that I felt like I needed to do that, womp womp, is my home. I grew up in an abusive home. And so that being able to be compliant and structured and control what I could control was how I stayed safe. It's how I felt like I could be a person. I didn't want to draw attention to myself. It was all these things. So it was a weird thing. And it took a lot of therapy later to sort of name how complex and layered and pretty awful it is for a little girl growing up and becoming a teenager and all these things, that these choices that I made to be in control of my time and my stuff, and everything was listed and everything was checked off and I was very productive. Those behaviors to me were protective choices linked to something deeply traumatic. And yet on the outside, they were validated by every single person that I ever encountered. You know, like every person in authority, every adult in my life was just like, Kendra is so great. And inside I'm like, oh, I guess I got to do this always now.
That's exhausting. That's so interesting because I have a friend who is an amazing interior designer. She was a lawyer and then she quit being a lawyer to run her own interior design business. And she said the same exact thing about why she likes to decorate and redecorate her home. Her house was chaotic. Her mom suffered from mental illness, and that her room was her sense of control. So it's so interesting hearing that from you about how kind of like organizing behaviors and that sense of control starts to manifest. And then I'm guessing that there was some point in your life where this sense of control just kind of like disintegrated, maybe around parenthood.
I had children, yes, but it was children.
Always.
We all think I do. We have an episode where we talk about that, how like we all think we got it down, right? And I worked in early childhood, 0 to 3 home visitation. So I was like, I know the importance of schedules and routines. I've got this down. I can do it. Kids are like, oh yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, hold my baby.
Yeah.
Here we go.
That's what happened. So what happened for you, Kendra, when the kids came along?
So I had my son, my first son, when I was 27. So we waited a little while. My husband's 7 years older than
my
I
first
am.
kid was 27 too.
So I actually think I thought that I would be even better at it because I wasn't a mom as early. Like there was something about it that's like I'm like so much more grown now. Blah, blah, blah. And then I had my kid, and Sam is a delight. And it's funny how I look back at videos of my kids when they were babies, and even though they can't really say anything or they're just like mom, it's like that's who you are now. Like it's wild how they just are who they are. And Sam was and it currently is like so energetic, so passionate, incredibly verbal, and he never slept. He never slept. And
those boys with the
oh
sleep.
my gosh,
My son killed me too.
I didn't think I
3 years. It took 3 years until we got to sleep through the night in our house.
we got to it was 18 months, and he had not, this is not hyperbole, other than like less than 5 times the child did not sleep for longer than 15 minutes at a time.
Oh God.
It was awful. It was awful. I hired a sleep specialist. I cried so much. It was just so deeply traumatic. And he started to sleep longer around 18 months, and 6 months later I had my second kid. So I was pregnant too during that.
Were you like, okay, I have to ask, did that traumatize you about having a second kid?
It did a little, because I thought, oh
Okay.
man, but I grew up, I have siblings, my husband has siblings, and we went through a number of conversations for a while. It was not a given that we were going to have kids at all. We really enjoyed being the two of us, and had to kind of be like, this does not have to be our choice. Like if we're able to get pregnant, that's wonderful, but also like, do we even want to try? And so when we decided to try, that was one of the things that was, we really were hoping that we would have more than one kid, because we found a lot of value for our own lives and having siblings. So I was almost like, and it took us almost 2 years to get pregnant with Sam. So we started trying to get pregnant as early as possible, thinking it would take a long time. And I got pregnant the first time we tried with Ben. And I'm like, well, that did not work out the way that I intended it to work out.
No.
So yeah.
Did the universe not see my checklist and my timeline? I had a timeline.
I had the whole thing planned out. I did. And then my daughter, who, one day I will explain this to, she was super duper an accident. Like my husband was scheduled. I'm not even kidding. My husband was scheduled to have a vasectomy. Like it was on the calendar for him to have a vasectomy, and I got pregnant, and I was like, what is happening? So every kid kind of taught me like this huge, huge lesson. Sam being my first kid, it makes sense. I thought, this is kind of where the name, in many ways, the name The Lazy Genius came from, is when I had Sam, I'm like, I'm going to be the best mother that's ever existed. I have to, like, I'm going to be perfect at this. And he is going to be a perfectly compliant child. And he had like sensory issues. He wouldn't breastfeed. He clearly wouldn't sleep. I was like,
all the things.
Suck at this. Like, I am so bad at this, but I got to keep it together. And then I had Ben, and I had tried so hard to be what I thought I was supposed to be with Sam, that when I had Ben, I swung the other direction. And I was like, well, screw it. I don't care about any of it. I'm not going to care.
Yeah.
With Sam, I cared about everything. With Ben, I cared about nothing. And both of those were unfulfilling. Both of those were unsustainable and also unfulfilling. And that's also when I started therapy. And so I kind of went through this process over those years of tiny parenting, where I realized how desperately I wanted to care, because there were a lot of things I love about what I can bring to the world and the kind of mom and parent and friend and sister and daughter that I want to be. And choosing to care and to put effort into those things doesn't make me a try hard. It doesn't mean that I'm pretending like I'm better than you or that I have it all together. Like, I just started to see, and I was writing on the internet at the time, and so I was interacting with a lot of different people, moms in particular. I started to see this conflation of, if your life is together, you're pretending. And if your life is a mess, you are more real. And neither of those is true.
I do see this as well, that you see all of these Instagram influencers, and they have like the messy house and the messy hair, and like people are like, oh my gosh, you're so vulnerable, you're so real. And it's almost like having your life together is a anomaly. And you have that one.
Yeah.
I could see how it works both ways. Like you just saying
Yeah.
that made me realize it. Something that I want to talk to you about, Kendra, that you talk about in your book is about all of these productivity tips and gurus, and actually like the whole a term that you introduced me to, the productivity industrial complex. And I want to get into it with you right after this. My water bottle is my constant accessory. I carry my pink one with me everywhere I go, and I honestly get a bit anxious when I don't have it. And I am always looking for ways to make drinking more water easier so I don't even have to think about it.
And that is why we love AquaTrue. Seriously, just one set of filters from their classic purifier makes the equivalent of 4,500 bottles of water. That's less than 3 cents a bottle, and you know how much I love a good deal. Plus, we get to help save the environment.
The filters are affordable and long lasting. No changing filters every 2 to 3 months. AquaTrue filters last from 6 months to 2 years. I can truly taste the difference compared to my old water filter.
AquaTrue comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee and makes a great gift. Today, our listeners receive 20% off any AquaTrue purifier. Just go to aquatrue.com. That's AQUATRU.com and enter code NGM at checkout. That's 20% off any AquaTrue water purifier when you go to aquatrue.com and use the promo code NGM. Green Chef in Every Plate is now owned by HelloFresh, and with a wider array of meal plans to choose from, there's something for everyone. I love switching between the brands, and now our listeners can also enjoy everything at a discount with Joanne and me.
And you know, I love takeout, but it is so expensive. And this is tasty restaurant style meals without that high price tag and less time even than it takes to get delivery.
I have to tell you, HelloFresh has a ton of options for whatever you are craving. Choose from a changing menu of over 50 recipes each week, plus take your pick from over 100 Market add-on items like dessert, breakfast, and did you know they have snacks?
That sounds amazing. Get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/free-NGM. Applied across 7 boxes and new subscribers only, varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/free-NGM.
HelloFresh, America's favorite #1 meal kit.
Meaningless stuff. Why do we gift so much meaningless stuff? Tired of generic gifts and hollow trends? Shutterfly allows you to create meaningful photo gifts for your family and friends. Whether it's a cozy fleece blanket for grandma, a stunning canvas print for mom, or a mug to make dad smile. Enjoy 40% off with code MAKE40 at Shutterfly.com and make something meaningful this year. See site for more details.
So I was reading your book on the plane, and I have to say, like, the way I read books is I have the book in front of me and then I have my notes app open on my phone so that every time I find something I want to remember, I'm like speaking into my notes app right here. And I was pausing so many times to like speak into my notes app during your book because the big thing that jumped out and that hooked me right away is you said the current productivity advice doesn't work for women. It's written by men for men. For men by men.
Yes.
And oh my gosh, at that point, all of my like insecurities just were released almost because here in the entrepreneurial world, I mean, there is so much productivity advice that is such BS. I mean, you mentioned some of it. What have you heard? Like the 4-hour work week where you're supposed to work 4 hours and make like bazillion dollars. I mean, what else have you seen out there that does not work for women in terms of this advice?
Yeah, I think a couple of the things that are sort of pervasive in this productivity industrial complex, which essentially is that our culture has become so interwoven. The productivity industry has become so entangled with our culture, the industry. Like in order for the industry to continue to make money, productivity has to be part of the cultural zeitgeist. And doggone it if it is not. Like it is to the tune of billions of dollars. Like we just that's all we're sort of doing is like, how can we master this and optimize this and make this thing better? And in many ways, it's the American dream. It is the potential. It's like, what is your potential? Hustle for this thing. And hear me, everyone listening. There is nothing wrong with any of the words I just said. Mastery, greatness, optimization, potential. None of those words are
All good.
bad.
Mhm.
But if you make that your goal, when it is not actually your goal, you will always be behind. You will always feel tired. You will always feel like you're not doing enough. You're not being enough for people. Like there is a constant deficit if that is your goal. And that is a goal that is much more accessible to the men in America than to the women in America.
It is.
Yes.
There are so many times, honestly, where as an entrepreneur, I've been really, really hard on myself for not being productive enough. If I have not made like my scheduled time blocks, or if I have no interest that day in my scheduled time blocks, I'm like, well, this is why I'm not making millions and employing so many, is because I just can't fit to it. I don't have the willpower. I don't have
your
the time
fault.
management strategies.
It's your fault. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I would say like one of the biggest fallacies out there is that if I just find the right organizational system,
that's right.
I can do it all.
Listen, that's the productivity industrial complex. Is it tricks you to think that you are one course, one book, one planner, one whatever away from it working, which guess what that means? We keep spending money. We keep spending time. We keep investing in all of these things. It keeps the industry going. And let's look at, I mean, if you think about all of the time management books and productivity books and all the resources that you have probably consumed in your lifetime, and you're still struggling so much, okay? There is clearly a deeper problem than it being, you just aren't disciplined enough. Sorry, Joanne. The problem is not you.
No. And so many moms feel this way too. Like I do one-on-one coaching with moms, and many come to me and they're like, you know what? My routine is gone to hell. Like I can't keep it together anymore. I'm directionless. And they're all blaming themselves for this. And so I want to break it down with you. First thing is, how are these productivity systems made for men, but they don't necessarily work for women?
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest things that is missing from the 93% of time management books that are written by men, because it is 93%.
I know. That was amazing. That statistic.
That's really high. That's really, really, really high. There are 3 significant things that men who are authors do not have as part of their life that deeply, deeply affect one's time. The first one is men who write books probably do not have bosses. That's the first thing. If you're an author, you almost certainly do not have a boss. So you can control your own schedule. You can decide when you're going to check your email, when you're going to stop, you're going to take a day off. And I say that as someone who I am on my own boss. I don't work on Fridays. I have the privilege and luxury of being able to make that choice because I do not have a boss. Most people have a boss. So you have to, and that's the smallest one of the 3. So they don't have bosses. The second one is men traditionally are not carrying the mental load of the home. They are not holding together the invisible ecosystem of what is happening. You could have the most, I saw a comedian, I wish I could remember who it was, that there was a comedian, and he said, he was like, you know what? On my best day as a dad, my absolute best day, I'm still a pretty shitty mom. And I was like, that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
That is right. Yeah.
And so I think that we forget that even if you have a relationship, if you have a partner, we won't even talk about single parenting, but if you have a partner who is like really holds a pretty equal load with you, you're still probably noticing all the things. You are holding together like the times that the kids have to do this, and the forms, and you're the CEO. Yeah. Moms are generally the CEO of their home. Men are not. And that highly, highly, highly affects your time. And then the third one is dudes don't have periods. They don't have hormones that change all the time. And they don't have those.
So true.
So if you do not have a boss, if you do not carry the mental load of the invisible ecosystem of your entire family and home, and you don't have a period, of course you can check your email only at 3. Of course you can go work out after work. Of course you can have hobbies and relationships, and like you can work 4 hours a week, and you can make all this money because you don't have these huge things that women have. You don't have those things. Makes me crazy if you can't
And of course you have the confidence to be able to judge people who can't get their crap together.
That's always what happens, isn't it?
Right? Because there's also that piece, I think, as women, we are also taught that it is somewhat our job to help, like you said, talking about the ecosystem within your home. It's also our job to kind of help hold everybody's emotional status together.
That's right. Yeah.
So we don't ever have the ability, or not that we don't ever have the ability. Joanne, definitely correct me on this one. But I think that it is much harder for us to say, well, that's your problem.
Yeah, it's very challenging.
It is a lot harder to say that because, as you mentioned in your book, Kendra, we've been taught not to trust ourselves as women. Like when Bree said this thing, like, I'm sorry, that's your problem. I mean, automatically, anytime I think about saying that, I'm like, oh, but wait, if I had done this, this, and this beforehand, then this wouldn't even have happened. So it is my problem. And I'm so sorry I have failed you completely as a mother. Like, but I mean, that's the thought process that happens. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So I want to know now, well, what's the solution? And we're going to get into that right after this.
I'm Margaret.
And I'm Amy.
And together we host the podcast, What Fresh Hell? Laughing in the Face of Motherhood.
Margaret, I would say you're sort of a where are my keys kind of mom.
Correct. Sometimes a where are my kids kind of mom. Well, you're, Amy, more of a we were supposed to leave 35 seconds ago, mom.
I mean, touche. In each episode of What Fresh Hell, we come at a topic from our usually completely opposite perspectives. I bring the research.
And I bring kind of the gimlet eye. Like, is that research really going to work, people?
And almost 10 million downloads later, we're still laughing.
We also talk to experts in the parenting field, plus parents with stories we can all learn from.
We make each other laugh, we challenge each other's assumptions, and we have what we think is the best parenting community on the internet.
Check out What Fresh Hell? Laughing in the Face of Motherhood wherever you listen to podcasts.
No one told us the truth about parenthood. Why? This is the podcast everyone needed before they had kids because now that those little ones are here, there is a lot to unpack. I'm Rachel Shepardota, and I am your host for the podcast No One Told Us, where we tell the truth about parenting and let you in on all the stuff you really should have known about before having kids. I am the founder of Hey Sleepy Baby, but this podcast is so much more than sleep. We'll be diving into all the topics that you really care about and need to know while you do your best job raising those adorable tiny humans. Our goal is to just make you feel less alone and less overwhelmed. There are so many things that no one tells us before becoming a parent, and I think that we should really pull back the curtain on becoming a first-time or second-time mom or dad to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll have a little education, a little fun, and a whole lot of heart that goes into each and every episode. So join me and our amazing guests each week to hear us talk about what no one told us.
So we were talking before, Kendra, about how, we as women, we haven't been taught to trust ourselves. We haven't been taught to really advocate for our own needs. And you have a system that you talk about in your book that helps you kind of make those priorities and everything. Can you tell us what PLAN, the acronym you use, stands for?
Yeah, I can. And I think it's important before I explain the acronym to name that men are not the enemy here.
No.
They are swimming in the same waters we are. They have been taught, they have been sold short, just like we have. And there are a lot of people, not just women. Women do need different tools because we have different challenges. We have more to hold. But I think it's just really important for it to not become like a resentful us versus them feeling in our bodies as we're moving this way, because really the goal here, the thing that informs the PLAN acronym, is a different goal.
Yeah.
And you can choose the goal of greatness and mastery and optimization. If that is the goal that resonates with you, you are allowed to choose that. If you're an Olympian, you're going to choose that. If you're a surgeon, you're going to choose that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that goal. That, though, is the that's sort of sold as like the mainline goal that's supposed to be for most of us, when really that's the exception. I think greatness is the exceptional goal. Yeah. The normal goal here that applies especially to women, but also to men, is integration. It is being who you are, where you are. It is being connected to yourself and to your life, and you are able to withstand whatever the circumstances are. That you are not at the whim of the circumstances in your life. That also releases you from the pressure to manufacture, manipulate, and control the circumstances of your life.
Oh,
if the way that we live is disconnected in a very healthy way from what the circumstances are doing to us, it works both ways. They don't knock us down, but they also were like, hey, we don't have to worry about that so much. And that's relevant to both men and women.
That releases a lot of stress from women as well, because I often feel like I need to control situations more so than I should. Like, even when we were in the car last night, we were driving to a concert and my husband was driving and I wanted to tell him, oh, go in this lane over here. Oh, you're going to miss that up there. If you don't like switch over, it's going to like all of those things, and able to control a situation that I was not in charge of. Like I have to actually intentionally
It is hard to
shut
switch it off.
my mouth when I do that.
Yeah.
But do you find, like, Joanne, that it's really hard to shut that train of thought off? Like, is that what, do you try to shut off that train of thought, or do you just try to shut your mouth? And
I shut my mouth because I'm like, I mean, I'm huge in self-compassion. So I'm like, listen, what I'm doing right now, I am in pain. I am hurting. Things are not going the way that I want them to go. I'm going to give myself comfort right now in this scenario. But yeah, I don't think you could shut off the line of thinking. But in terms of like,
it's hard. It's hard. That's why I was asking. Because I mean, I think that some of us think that we just need to, it comes along that same line, that we think that we just need to stop thinking that way.
Right.
Well, if I would just stop worrying about everything, or like my little saying that we have here at No Guilt Mom for me is, if I would just stop worrying about step 20 and just worry about step 1, I'd be okay.
Yeah.
But that is a lot harder. Like, you're like, everything that you talk about in your book, like it's so hard to rip through the years of being told that we're responsible for everything. We must hold everything.
Well, and it's such a nuanced thing that changes. This is the reason why these things need to be spoken about for women specifically in a better way, because there are days where my logistical brain is such a benefit to my family. Like, I'm so glad I have it, because it means that we're able to kind of thrive and roll, and we're just doing our thing. And so it's not so much that it's like, I don't want us to, kind of like demonize our ability to hold things together. Like, that's a really beautiful thing that you offer yourself and your family. But depending on your energy that day, you might have a lot less access to that on a specific day. And so that's why there's a separation of, it doesn't make you good or bad. It doesn't make the day the best day ever, or, like we've mastered this and it's the most optimized and we've done great. Check that box. There's a humanist to it. There's a humanity to us just being like, who am I today? What do I have available within me today that I can offer? What do I need to say no to? What should we let go for tomorrow? And you might not even have the energy to even ask those questions. It could just be like, we're just going to deal with whatever comes in front of our attention next, because I don't have the energy to do anything else. Last night at the dinner table, everyone was asking me questions at the same time. Husband, my mother, and my 3 children, all of them. And I just was like, hey, you guys, my brain's done. So you either need to talk to me one at a time, or can we save this for another time where I can actually hear what you're saying? Because I can't, I'm done. And they were like, oh, sorry, Mom, sorry. So, and so just to honor who you are today, honor what you have available to you today. And if that is a high level of optimization and availability and logistical details, and you're like rocking and rolling, that day, you are not a better mom that day than the day that you have to take a nap because you're too tired, or you're cramping, or you got hit with a wave of grief that you did not anticipate, and you just don't know how to get going today. Like, be kind either way. Both count. Both count. I still haven't told you what the acronym is.
It's okay. We're going to get to it because that brings to mind, like, this whole thing of honoring your body, honoring where you are, and resting. It is such, I realized, a source of guilt for me. Reading through your book, you described a scenario about how choosing sleep before togetherness, like you're working all day, like, do you prioritize getting sleep, or do you prioritize being together with your family? And I have to say, like, I've been in this scenario before where my family wanted to be in a game night, and they wanted to just like play a board game together. And I'm okay, I could do it for one game, and then I can't do it for any other games because I really need my sleep. When I stopped playing that game and I was like, oh, I need to go to bed now. My husband turned to me. He's like, don't you want to play with us? Don't you want to be together with us? I gave him hell for that afterwards. Like, not there in that moment, but I'm like, I need to go to bed.
Yeah.
And then he's like, are you okay? Like coming in, I'm like, you just guilt tripped me right there. Do you notice that you did that? And he did apologize for everything and saying it. But there's a lot of guilt associated if you're not aware of what you are thinking in your head and what is acceptable from other people. That could take you down such a guilty road of self-shaming. And it's so hard, Kendra, so hard, but so needed too.
This is a great segue into the planned pyramid, which is the actual framework, because the base
the
of this
tetrahedron,
pyramid,
as you say.
Yes, the tetrahedron. I know, but again, the planned tetrahedron does not roll off the tongue. Planned pyramid does a little bit more. But the bottom, the base of it, the foundation of everything is what matters to you in this season that you are in. And when you are in a season, to reference that example that you said in the book, it's like when there's a lot of travel, which I'm about to enter into, like a month of, it's 21 evenings that I'm not there to like put my daughter to bed. Not all of them are overnight, but over half of them are over like 32 days. 21 of those evenings I'm essentially working or not home. And it is a lot. It is a lot. And so that's a season of life that I and my family will be in. And so what I will do, and what I've already started doing in planting these seeds, is naming to them, okay, so guys, what matters to me is that I do have to rest. Like, I can't stay up super late and, watch the Marvel movie, even though I want to be with you. What this means is we have to prioritize our together time earlier in the day, because mama's got to go to sleep. And so naming those things out loud, like as a family, as a unit, so that, and it's not always oriented toward the mom either. Like, everybody has different seasons of life. And so kind of making it part of your conversation, what matters for us right now in this season that we're in as a family, let's talk about it. So that's the foundation of the pyramid. Then the three sides of the pyramid that lean into each other and make a point are 3 letters of plan: prepare, adjust, and notice. And then the point of the pyramid is L for live. It is the point tangibly of the pyramid, and also theoretically the point of all is that we're living. And what is really important to notice about this pyramid, about these 3 sides of prepare, adjust, and notice, is that the system, the productivity system that we have grown up in, it really, really highlights preparation big time. That's pretty much all it teaches us to do, is to prepare.
I was about to say that, actually. It's like one straight arrow: prepare, live.
That's all it is. That's all it is. It's all preparation. And so in many ways, if you're good at preparing, you have a natural bent to lists and checklists and logistics, then that can be really empowering. But then you're also like, but I am exhausted and I feel like I'm building this machine that's not always working, and I'm having to maintain the machine and the systems, and maybe it's wrong. And then you get your big black trash bag energy, where you're like, none of this is working. And you just start dumping things into the big black trash bag and taking it out of your house, physically and metaphorically, all or nothing.
Have you been in my house?
Yeah, probably have.
Yeah, probably.
It's so relatable. It's so relatable. But it's all or nothing. If preparation is your only thing, it's all or nothing. And for people who are not naturally inclined to prepare, if you are neurodivergent, if you do not have like a normative way of sort of working out your stuff, there are no resources for you. Or if there are, they're very hard to find, but they're all still focused on preparation. So that's why the equal balance, preparation still gets a part of it, because you still need to prepare. But in equal parts, you also notice what's going on in your body, in your family, in your emotions, in your schedule. Is this system working because of this thing? Like, let's notice, let's pay attention to where we are and what is happening. And then you also adjust, and you adjust in small ways. Adjustment is by nature small. You don't make really big adjustments. A lot of times that's like dismantling and rebuilding. So that's why you adjust by starting small. You notice with kindness. You notice by being kind to yourself and where you are. And you prepare by going in the right order, which is often, you got to name what matters. You got to name what matters in your life. Because if you prepare with this big set it and forget it, I'm building this big machine idea that the productivity industry feeds us, especially if your goal is greatness, then you're always going to feel behind. So this pyramid to me is just very holistic and compassionate and realistic to go, yeah, I want to get just as skilled. I want to develop my skills of adjusting and being able to pivot just as much as I plan. I want to have eyes that are open to where I am now just as much as I have the ability to look into the future. Let's cultivate those skills equally. And it really creates a system, but really more a way of life that supports the kind of life that I think most of us want to live.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I feel like actually like my skills are about noticing and adjusting more so than preparing. Like that is preparation has actually been something that I've had to work on a lot to get that in order. But it's this integrated way of living that I love how you describe it, because there goes the stress, there goes the self-shame, there goes everything else. If you're trying to instead have a really contented life that doesn't exactly feed into buying the next system, this is a great way to look at it. With that, Kendra, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I am very much looking forward to it. So my book, my book, The Plan, released on October 8th, which is so very exciting. And so I'm about to kind of go into this, well, it's the 21 days that I said of not being home, but I really am so excited to meet people in person and talk about this more and more. But honestly, I think the thing that I'm the most excited about, because the book hasn't been out for very long, is for people to actually read it. I really cannot wait for people to start reading it, because it's one thing to like support me and like, that sounds like a good book, let's get it, but to read it, because that means it's like going to impact your life. So I'm looking forward to a little bit down the road as people start to actually read and feel kind of that release and that deep breath and that freedom, but also they're given the skills to, they're practical things. It's not just like a one big pep talk that's like, you got it, girl, and then leaves you with no tools. Like there's tools there too. So I am so excited for this wave. I don't know how big the wave is going to be, but I am so excited for this wave of women to finally be like, feet on the ground, baby. This is who I am. This is the life that I love. And I feel like if we have a world full of women who feel that way about their lives, watch
It'll
out.
change. I know.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
That is my dream as well. Women to step into that confidence, because we are a powerful force when we stop shaming ourselves. Like we can use all that energy to move forward. Well, Kendra, it has been wonderful talking to you. Go and get Kendra's book, The Plan, which is out now. And we'll talk to you later.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So when I was reading The Plan, it wasn't even in chapter 1 yet. It was still in the foreword. She had this line that made me like drop everything and go, oh my God, she so correctly articulated something that I feel in my bones. So I'm just going to read it really quick. So she says, in general, a man's life is oriented around him, and a woman's life is oriented around everything but her, all while our body's rhythms are annoyingly inconvenient. And I just feel like that was like such an eye-opening moment of like talking about, and we talk about that a lot in the interview, how organization, the way it is like mainstreamed, it is based around a man's life that is able to drop everything else and just focus on them and the tasks at hand. And women in general, and we're not saying this is true for everybody, but in general, women are expected to focus on the things that we need to get done, all while also taking care of everybody else around us.
It's true.
And it is so unfair. And that's why, like, you know, I think that we have that lie in our head that if I just find the right organizational system, I'll be able to get my shiz done. And and it's not that. It's not that.
It's not that. And it's why I like leaving my home so much, because like when I go on trips and everything, like it's not just that like it's expected of outside people, because by outside people, like I don't think that my husband expects me to take care of him, nor do my kids. Some of it, they expect me to drop everything, but I think I expect that of myself. And so when I leave, and when I'm out of that environment, I don't have those expectations on myself anymore, and I'm a whole lot more relaxed. And it's sad to think that way. Like I feel guilty even thinking that way, being like, why can't I get it together enough that I don't have those expectations and I can relax around my family? But it doesn't work that way.
So like there are seasons in life, and I think that was another great thing that Kendra brought up. Like her family's getting ready to go into a season where she's going to be traveling a lot, and so she was having that conversation with her family and her kids because she has an array of ages at home with her 3 kiddos. But I think that we all have seasons. I mean, like when your kid's really little, that season is they need a parent. And we're here to tell you, Mom, it doesn't have to be you 24/7. It really doesn't. The sooner you start helping people, possibly your parenting partner, but whomever else, realize that they are capable, that it doesn't have to be you, the easier it'll be as they get older. But that's it. But, again, it's still tough. It's still tough at all different ages. It's still tough at all different ages. And like right now, we were talking to before we started recording about how being the chauffeur, right? Like how that is a busy stage too, where you're like taking everybody to practices and here and there. And
Oh yeah, I get mad about chauffeuring. I get mad right now about chauffeuring,
right?
Because it means that like I'm expected to drop everything, and that's been a boundary that I've been putting in place a lot more often. Like my daughter's like, can you do 4:30 today? I'm like, no, I can't. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh. And so she thought a little bit. And then this morning she's like, can you do 4? I'm like, I can do 4. Thank you. Thank you for taking me into account as well. But she's also relying on friends and everything too to take her places. And it gets better. It gets better. It's a work in progress. You don't know what you need to put in process. You don't know what you need to put in place until it happens to you and you get upset with it. And that anger is actually just a signal that, hey, something here needs to change. I was having a discussion yesterday with my daughter where she is not wanting to do something in one of the clubs she's in. She's like, I did not sign up for this. I did not agree to this. Like to do this thing, and this is all the information I can give, to do this thing would cause her what she attunes to public humiliation and losing all of her friends is how she sees it. And everybody in this club was basically yelling at her and these 2 other girls who were standing their ground about doing this thing. And at first I brush her off because
you feel like she's being melodramatic a little.
Yeah, I feel like she's being dramatic. And luckily my daughter like challenges me in so many ways. She's like, Mom, you are not listening to anything I am saying right now. You are so quick to dismiss me. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. I'm listening.
I thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And as she talked, I realized how much anxiety this was causing her. And the fact that nobody was listening to her was causing her even more anxiety. And she explained the situation. And she's like, I do not mean to be difficult. I really don't think like they even like are aware of where I am coming from. They are so like set on their ways in this situation that they are not considering like my viewpoint whatsoever. And I'm like,
good point.
You're absolutely right on that one. I could see exactly why you are doing like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And she said, and I'm tired of them yelling at me for it. Like, I just don't want to be shamed about it anymore. And that's when I turned to her and I'm like, you know what? Your only responsibility is to name your boundary and hold it. That's all you can do. What other people are doing, what they're yelling, that's bad on them. That's on them. You can't control it. You can't do anything about it. And she's like, yeah, it is.
You know what kills me is knowing your daughter so well. She like you has this very peppy energy about her. And I honestly like knowing her personality, if she was holding up a boundary, I'd be like, whoa.
Because she knows if she does it, people are going to post it on their Instagram and Snapchats and making fun of her. And she does not want that out in the world for this thing.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to put herself out there for that one. And my inclination at first to be like, oh, don't care what other people think. But I'm like, but if this is causing her a ton of anxiety.
Exactly. And that's really good to be introspective about that side of it. Like if it is, then, and it's not like that girl's only in one club either. She's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, because the whole argument against it is they're like, yeah, well, you're in this to push your comfort zone. And I'm like, hold up. So when you talk about comfort zones, you have to take little baby steps. And what this sounds like is this is way too big of a step for you right now for your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And that's valid. And I want you to stand up for that. I don't ever want you to feel like you have to do something for someone else to make them happy. Forget that.
See, like that's where you start to get into those slippery situations where you find yourself looking around going, how did I get here and how the hell am I going to get out of it? Because I am just not feeling okay.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I love that. I love that. Go girl. You go girl.
Yeah.
You go girl.
Exactly. Exactly.
Man. Okay. Well, all the more reason. So like if you guys felt any inspiration in this episode, which if you didn't, I'm not quite sure how that didn't happen, but you have to go and get this book, The Plan. It is amazing. We have a link in our show notes for it. It is a phenomenal book. You will absolutely love it. You'll find so much support and help in it. It is great. I loved it. Kendra is so fun.
She is. And remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks for stopping by.
Are you a parent in need of a laugh and a little escape? Look no further. Parenting is a Joke is the podcast you've been waiting for. Hey, I'm Ophira Eisenberg. I'm a stand-up comic and parent. And each week I chat with one of my top comedian pals who, just like you, are juggling careers, busy lives and schedules, and raising a family. You can expect candid stories, hilarious mishaps that happen on stage and at home, and just a lot of laughs. There's no expert advice here. Well, actually, sometimes a good idea does sneak its way in, but mostly just pure, relatable fun to remind you that we're all in this parenting adventure together. New episodes of Parenting is a Joke drop every Tuesday, so tune in, get ready to laugh, unwind, and maybe even feel a little bit better about your own parenting. Because sometimes that's exactly what your therapist, pediatrician, and bartender ordered. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform.